Michael Avenatti, the lawyer who shot to fame as Stormy Daniels' lawyer in her case against the president, this morning is facing charges himself, charges that could carry penalties totaling decades in prison if convicted. As the New York Times details, yesterday Avenatti walked into a meeting with Nike, a meeting he believed could result in a multi-million-dollar payout. But instead, he left the meeting in FBI custody. He's charged with trying to extort more than $20 million from Nike, a move the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York called an old-fashioned shakedown.
But when lawyers use their law licenses as weapons, as a guise to extort payments for themselves, they are no longer acting as attorneys, they are acting as criminals.
And that's not all. There's a separate case in California. Avenatti charged with bank and wire fraud there. Last night, following his court hearing in New York, Avenatti weighed in on the charges, saying that due process will exonerate him. NBC investigations reporter Tom Winter joins us with the latest. Tom, what exactly happened here?
Yeah, I mean, this was, really just a total stunning change for Michael Avenatti. He was in court. I was in court with him last night. It was a late initial appearance for Avenatti. You see him coming out there. But, he used to be the life of the court, Chris, and now he was sitting by himself at his table with the marshals sitting behind him. It was just a very weird scene. What happened was Michael Avenatti was under investigation for a long time out in California. As you suggested, he faces charges there. And they were ready to arrest him on Friday night. As a matter of fact, my colleague Julia Ainsley, we were getting whispers that there was something that was going to happen in California, but we weren't quite sure. And then all of a sudden that seemed to have gone away. We didn't hear much more about it. And then this just kind of came out of nowhere yesterday afternoon. Avenatti was, like I said, was already in trouble. And then he started to begin this extortion scheme with Nike, and they have him on tape. That meeting that you referenced earlier, they set up cameras and audio equipment in the room where the meeting occurred. So Michael Avenatti is on tape essentially saying, look, just give me $22.5 million and I'll just ride off into the sunset. That's what he actually said. So it no longer becomes advocating for your client. It becomes just trying to enrich yourself. We know that Avenatti's had financial issues, and now he's got very serious legal issues.
Yeah, and he got so famous so fast. He actually toyed with running for president. Right. And Edward Isaac Dovere, The Atlantic, you often see him on this network, tweeted this. Last spring, Michael Avenatti sat in a Starbucks on 16th Street with me, looking toward the White House, and told me he had already started to envision himself sitting behind the desk in the Oval Office as president. I mean, he had said that he wasn't going to run, but so what's next for him? Where does this case go? The New York one?
Yeah, well, what's next for him is a lot of time being spent in a courtroom, and certainly not in the Oval Office. He's got a trial here in New York. He'll have a trial in Los Angeles. And, Chris, he faces real jail time here. I mean, the maximum on the extortion charge in New York is 20 years alone. He faces significant jail time of equal or even greater amounts in California. So as far as Michael Avenatti is concerned, his only focus is probably going to be on his own legal troubles. He needs to get representation here in New York. He was represented by public defenders last night. That's primarily just because of how quickly this all came together. So he'll have to have attorneys in Los Angeles. He has his travel restricted. His passports, his Italian and U.S. passport, they'll have to be turned over. And he has to report any financial transactions over $5,000 incoming or outgoing to accounts that he controls. Chris, he's got a long way from the White House now. He's much closer to prison.
Tom, thanks so much. We want to talk more about this. Former U.S. Attorney Paul Charlton is here, along with former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney Robert Bianchi. Bob, so I think the question for a lot of people is, when does threatening a lawsuit cross over into extortion?
Great question. And that's what Avenatti's going to say. Well, I was just trying to zealously advocate for a client. But here's the thing. He put himself in a box when he said, my client's damages are $1.6 million and I want to be paid for that. But when he then went to personally advantage himself by saying, I need $15 to $20 million either to investigate and write a report for you, or just give me $22.5 million and I'll walk away. He has broken the law, according to the U.S. attorney because he's no longer advocating for a legitimate claim of a client as opposed to enrichment for himself. And these facts are locked and loaded. These are not a good thing for him to do. It's improper to do as an attorney. And I don't think that you're going to find an attorney in the world that's going to get up on the witness stand for him as an expert to say this is a legitimate exercise in pursuing a client's case. Last point, what you do is you pursue the client's case for their damages and you take your fee from the client. You don't extort it from the company.
So, Paul, the line that Robert mentioned as a non-lawyer is one, though, that struck me because he asked, apparently, reportedly, for that $22.5 million, he said, and then full confidentiality, we ride off into the sunset. Against that backdrop, is it at all common to see lawyers mistakenly cross this line? Is it unclear where the line is?
The U.S. Attorney's position, and if these charges are proven true, Chris, is that that line was a red line and a very clear line. Remember, the context here in which Michael Avenatti did these acts and took these actions is one in which the Southern District of New York has an ongoing criminal prosecution that relates to the subject area that Michael Avenatti was talking about. Another clothing manufacturer, other sports individuals, other NCAA individuals tried and convicted of crimes. You cannot threaten a criminal prosecution to gain a civil benefit. That is the very definition of extortion. And Chris, you don't have to look too far in our recent history to learn about the sentencing guidelines and what, if, again, these charges are proven to be true, a possible conviction in the Central District of California and a possible conviction in the Southern District of New York means. That means, as happened with Paul Manafort, that if Mr. Avenatti is found guilty, he may be facing a sentence in California and then a consecutive and additional sentence in the Southern District of New York.
So I think I know the answer to this, but I just want to make sure I'm clear on it, Robert. So Avenatti claimed that he had Nike employees who knew of Nike employees who funneled money into college basketball recruits. We've seen this case before elsewhere. Yesterday, the SDNY prosecutor said, if we're now investigating that, right? They're looking at that. If it turns out that that's true, does that have any impact at all on what happens to Avenatti? If he can go to court and say, I was actually right about this.
Well, this is going to be what his defense is. I'm a zealous advocate advocating on behalf of my client, and the law is clear. Just the filing of lawsuits, even bogus lawsuits under the Hobbs Act, which deals with extortion, is not extortion. However, it has to be exclusively done for purposes of advantaging the client. When you are saying line my pockets with money, that to me is where he went over the line, and clearly they indicate there if it's not done exclusively for the benefit of the client, then it can be considered extortive. He's basically saying, I'm going to knock your market cap down by billions of dollars. I'm going to do it right before the NCAA tournaments, and that's maybe okay. But when he says, I will basically whitewash the whole thing if you pay me money, that's where the extortion, that's where you no longer become a lawyer and you become a shakedown artist.
I've only got 30 seconds left, and this really isn't a legal question, Paul, but I'll ask it of you anyway. And we all know that judges are the range of, personalities, the way they sentence, the whole thing. But generally, would a judge look at a lawyer differently and say, you knew better, you're a lawyer, you passed the bar, are you kidding me?
Right.
And here's where a judge would most certainly do that. Again, Chris, if these charges are proven to be true, if you embezzle your client's money, that is such an extraordinary abuse of your trust relationship between the lawyer and the client. And remember, these judges are lawyers themselves. I think you will very much risk seeing the anger of a judge as he sentences you for that offense.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.